One of the most persistent thorns in Calvin's side were the libertines in Geneva. But here, too, his perseverance was triumphant in a remarkable way. In every city in Europe, men kept mistresses. So this is, I don't know, I think this is written pro-Calvin. All right. When Calvin began his ministry in Geneva in 1536 up to the age of 27, there was a law that said man could keep only one mistress. Even after Calvin had been preaching as pastor in St. Peter's Church for over 15 years. All right, 15 years. 1536 is 15 years, so it's 15, 17, 18. So he started at 15, 17, 18 at St. Peter's Church, somewhere over, for over 15 years. The immorality was a plague, even in the church. The libertines boasted in their license. For them, the communion of saints meant common possession of goods, houses, bodies, and wives. So they practiced adultery and indulged in sexual promiscuity in the name of Christian freedom. According to the author, is what they're saying. That's what they interpret him as saying. What do they actually say? I don't know. All right. And at the same time, they claimed the right to sit at the Lord's table. So they doing something somebody didn't like and claim to sit at the Lord's table. Something about Lord's table. All right, it sounds like crisis. All right. The crisis of the communion came to a head in 1553. A well-to-do libertine named Berthelier was forbidden by the consistory of the church to eat the Lord's Supper, but appealed the decision to the council of the city. So he appealed to the city council. These rulers, these episcopal rulers or something, what do you call them? Ecumenical rulers. But he appealed it, all right, to the city council. So they're appealing some state and church affair or something to the city council, I don't know, which overturned the ruling. This created a crisis for Calvin, who would not think of yielding to the state the rights of excommunication, nor of admitting a libertine to the Lord's table. The issue, as always, was the glory of Christ. He wrote, I took an oath that I had resolved rather to meet death than profane so shamefully the holy supper of the Lord. My ministry is abandoned if I allow the authority of the consistory to be trampled upon and extended the supper of Christ to open scoffers. I should rather die 100 times than subject Christ to such foul mockery. The Lord's day of testing arrived. The libertines were present to eat the Lord's Supper. It was a critical moment for the Reformed faith in Geneva. The sermon had been preached. The prayers had been offered. And Calvin descended from the pulpit to take his place beside the elements at the communion table. And this is where somebody just dragged that on right here. Now that'd be a cliffhanger, dangler right there. The bread and wine were duly consecrated by him. Yeah, and I already know what I'm going to do. I got 2 more little articles lined up. And it's neat. I just read it, but I had to record this because this is neat how I take it if you give it to me. And he was now ready to distribute them to the communicants. Then on a sudden a rush was began by the troublers in Israel in the direction of the communion table. All right, this is definitely written pro-camp. They're calling them troublers and they're showing this. But I want to find out who these people are. All I know is up here there was a guy that got denied Lord's Supper and he appealed it to the city council and the city council denied it. And Calvin was like, well, and Calvin flung his arms direction of the communion table. Calvin flung his arms around the sacramental vessels as if to protect them from sacrilege, while his voice rang through the building. These hands you may crush. These arms you may top off. My life you may take. My blood is yours. This sounds like a witchcraft. This sounds like a crafts. This sounds like some summoning conjuring stuff. You may shed it, but you shall never force me to give holy things to the profaned and dishonor the table of my God. After this, Beza says, somebody that's written about this, Calvin's first biographer, the sacred ordinance was celebrated with a profane silence and under solemn awe in all present, as if the deity himself had been visible among them. And there's a picture. Another picture. So the dude got denied from having the Lord's Supper. All right, Philip Berther, Swiss politician, and born 1465, died 1519. So this guy would have only been like 2 years before his death. This is an old man right here when Calvin started over at the St. James place right there, where they'd be teach them how to act out acts, you know. And this guy was older, died 1519, political martyr and leader of the Giovanese anti-Savoyard faction. The Huguenots, these knots that struggle in Huguenots. There's all kind of knots going around. Yeah, the knots. There's knots. There's still some knots going around that struggled against the powerful Duke of Savoy, Charles III, to maintain the independence of Geneva. 1465, 1519. We got a family, the Berthers. Though no more than a minor public official, Berther took an active part in Geneva's political controversies. In 1508, he championed the rights of military corporations against the city council. So there was still some city councils and some militaries, and at the time, militaries here would be local people, you know. He championed the rights against the city councils. They went the wrong way. And in 1509, his protest led to the dismissal of the incumbent Vaudon. And that's some Latin stuff right there. And that's episcopal official charge with civil and criminal jurisdiction. So they had these ecumenical episcopal people involved in criminal jurisdiction and civil also as well. And he opposed the installation of a Savoyard puppet John as bishop and temporal lord of Geneva, 1513. So he opposed that, 1513. Who was this puppet temporal lord of Geneva? And in 1515 formed a League of Patriots, infants in Geneva, to resist the bishop's encroachments on citizens' rights. Further opposition to the bishop and its connection led to Berther's arraignment on a charge of some French and Swiss stuff. And although acquitted by the citizens' committees, he was nonetheless summarily arrested and executed. Oh, even the citizens let him out. But somehow they got him anyway. His struggles against the Savoyard influence in Geneva were continuing and ultimately brought to a successful conclusion under the leadership of his friend, Bazin Hughes. So this huge guy in Geneva, Switzerland. And then I also just go to the same old. It's not Britannica, but it's Wikipedia. And then Philip, 1465, 1519. Often known just as Berther, was a Genevan patriot, uncompromising enemy of the Duke of Savoy and an ambition to control Geneva. So this Duke of Savoy was using people to control Geneva, and he championed the rights of military against the civil authorities, and voted against the Episcopalian that was running civil and something criminal justice department. In 1513, the Duke of Savoy nominated his cousin as bishop at Geneva. All right. There's more about the Duke of Savoy. and Bertha called for a rebellion, but later made a political compromise with the Bishop of Geneva when accepting nomination as commander of the castle of Penang. However, I'm hungry now. However, in June 1513, he rose in open rebellion, and in 1517 even fled in order to seek to promote a cooperation between the Republican factions in both cities. Yeah, he was involved in he was at least listening to some stuff going on. He knew some stuff going on. He was getting involved. I don't know. This guy was he was a thorn in somebody's side. In February 1518, he returned to Geneva after being given safe conduct by the bishop. Secret meetings with members of the Republican faction in the city known as the Huguenots for the purpose of overthrowing Savoy. In order to prevent any rebellion, the Bishop of Geneva decided to move his residence into that city from Paris, where he resided most of the time. Bertha was offered by his friends to flee another time, but refused. In trial and execution, soldiers tried after summer, found guilty and sentenced to death by beheading. The sentence was carried out on the same day. The legacy in the grounds of the church that stands beside in the village of Penang, overlooking the Rhone near Geneva, there's a small plaque erected in 1986 to commemorate the 450th anniversary of the Reformation. This refers to the castle of Penang as the ancient fief of Philip Bertha. After the Reformation was declared, Penang Castle was a stronghold of Catholicism and was destroyed by the Genevans in 1536. On the site now stands the Domaine de Chateauvex. It's some Gothic something. Gothic, a luxury hotel and a restaurant, which has a brief historical account of the castle in English. Bertha had a son by the same name who was an opponent to Jean Calvin. Jean had a son. Dude, man. I like that. Bertha, dude.